Alexei wakes up before sunrise when someone's boot strikes the side of his bed. Around him, men pull on their uniforms and prepare for another day of training. For weeks, trains have been arriving at the Toitske military range, carrying soldiers, tanks, artillery, and aircraft. Nobody tells Alexei why. To him, it is just another exercise. Stand where he is told. Carry what he is given. Follow the next order. He does not know that before the morning is over, his own country will detonate a nuclear bomb nearby, and then order him toward it. Alexei is fictional. The exercise was real. On September 14th, 1954, roughly 45,000 Soviet servicemen assembled at the Totskoy training ground in the southern Urals. The operation was called Snowball. Its purpose was to answer a question that had begun haunting every major military power. Could an army continue fighting after a nuclear explosion? Not days later, when the fires had stopped. Immediately. Could soldiers watch an atomic bomb destroy enemy defenses, then advance across the battlefield it had created? The terrain at Totskoye resembled parts of Western Europe, where Soviet commanders imagined a future conflict might unfold. This was not simply a weapons test. It was a rehearsal for World War III. Shortly before the detonation, the soldiers received their instructions. Take cover. Do not look directly at the flash. Keep your mouth open to reduce the pressure on your ears. Protective equipment is distributed, including goggles, respirators, and gas masks. But a gas mask can only create the appearance of safety. It cannot make a nuclear battlefield safe. At 9:33 that morning, a Soviet Tu-4 bomber flies over the range. A bomb falls from its belly. Then the horizon disappears. A weapon with a force of approximately 40 kilotons detonates above the ground. A white flash overwhelms the daylight. Heat spreads across the range. A vast column of smoke and earth rises into the sky. Above the soldiers, a mushroom cloud begins to form. But the bomb is only the beginning. Radiation teams move forward, measuring contamination and marking routes through the damaged area. Then comes the order: advance. Engines start. Tanks and armored vehicles move out. Infantry units follow designated paths through and around the exercise zone. The commanders are no longer studying the explosion. They are studying what happens afterward. Can machinery keep moving? Can officers maintain control? Will soldiers continue obeying when the battlefield ahead of them has just been erased? As the columns advance, the landscape becomes unfamiliar. Trees are stripped and broken. Vehicles placed near the target lie burned or overturned. Fires smolder among the destroyed positions. Near the center of the blast, the heat has transformed parts of the ground into a thin, glass-like crust. It cracks beneath soldiers' boots. They are walking across earth that had briefly melted beneath an artificial sun, and they keep moving because someone ordered them to. On paper, Snowball succeeded. The army continued operating after a nuclear strike. But that was not the most disturbing part of the exercise. The deeper horror was how quickly something unimaginable became routine. The explosion was followed by routes, measurements, commands, and reports. A weapon capable of destroying a city became another tool on the battlefield. And the people standing near it became another part of the test. The full health consequences remained difficult to reconstruct. Exposure varied between units. Medical records were incomplete. The exercise remained secret for decades, and many later claims about casualties were impossible to verify. The evidence does not show that all 45,000 soldiers marched through the center of the blast or quickly died from radiation. But thousands of people were placed around a real nuclear battlefield so the military could learn how well they would function inside it. The state recorded what the explosion did to tanks, roads, and defensive positions. What it did to many of the soldiers is much harder to know. Alexei began the morning expecting another exercise. By the end of it, he had watched the sky turn white, seen a mushroom cloud rise above his own army, and followed orders toward the place where it happened. The Soviet Union wanted to know whether soldiers could still move forward after a nuclear explosion. They could. The experiment never asked whether anyone had the right to send them.